What's up, everybody? I'm Amanda Pollock, and in this video we're going to talk about what sketch comedy taught me about audience feedback. So if we haven't hung out very much, I had another life before I was a cookbook and food memoir coach, which honestly I believe that all of our past lives will work together for what we're doing now. But I started out as a performer, and I studied acting. I was an actor my whole life. It's still inside of me. But I am a graduate of the Second City Hollywood, which, if you're not familiar, Second City is the largest improv and sketch comedy theater in the world. They started in Chicago, and they still have main stages in Chicago and Toronto, and a training center in LA. And there's also training centers in Chicago and Toronto. Anyway, so I graduated from the Second City in LA, and it was honestly one of the best experiences I've ever had. And what I learned from being on stage in Hollywood and performing, Second City has a focus of social and political satire and recognizable human behavior, which is my favorite kind of comedy. Every comedy school has a different train of thought, different methods. Some focus more on character work, others focus on going very blue and love to push the boundaries. But Second City's my training center. Anyway, so what did I learn about audience feedback? I think it's really important to have this conversation, especially when it comes to writers and the book writing process, because writing feels like a very isolated event. You have this idea that you're gonna go to a mountaintop and write your novel, and hopefully Kathy Bates doesn't show up and hold you hostage. But the truth is often writers are so precious about their work, and I feel that the more that you can release yourself from some of that, the better it's going to be throughout all stages, because truthfully, a lot of people are going to be touching your work throughout the process. So you might work with a book coach before you submit to a literary agent, and then your agent is probably going to have revisions, probably. Even if you did a book proposal and you worked with someone, your agent's probably going to touch that. And then it's going to go to a publisher, and then it's going to go to, your editor. And a lot of people are going to be telling you throughout the process what's working and what's not. And I want to help people just reframe how they think about feedback. And even audience feedback is your audience and your platform and the people who you're reaching, and how you can maybe have a healthier relationship with the comments and thoughts that are coming to you about your work. So something that I learned from sketch comedy, honestly, is that people really do want you to succeed. There's a fear when you get up on stage, or when you're showing someone your work for the first time, that people aren't going to like it, and that they're just waiting to judge you. And honestly, most people want to be entertained. They want to love what you're putting out. So once you just assume that, it gets a lot easier. And the other thing is that, when you are doing, so at Second City, how we would write sketch comedy is we would have an idea, we would have certain beats that we were gonna hit, you cast that with the people who are in your group, you improvise it, you re-improvise it, you throw it up for a show, and you kind of see what hits, what doesn't, where you got the laughs, where it felt kind of lagging, and then you go back and you work on it, you throw it up again, you're just constantly workshopping your material. If you think of SNL, they only have a week to do that. And so if they were gonna be putting on like a longer show, they might workshop some of those bits over and over. But revising is part of the process. Knowing where people are engaged and where it falls short is really important. I hear a lot of artists and creators say, I'm not creating for other people, I'm creating for myself. Cool. You can create things that you really love and believe in, and understand that if you want your art to be effective, you need to reach the right audience. And that's just a marketing thing. But don't dismiss what people are saying. Sure, there's going to be some people it's not for them. But if the people who you are targeting come back and say, this doesn't hit, I'm kind of unsure about X, Y, and Z, you can take that feedback. It doesn't mean you're using all of that. It doesn't mean you're going to go back to your novel, or, you know, if like you're working with someone like me, your cookbook or your food memoir. It doesn't mean that you're going to take everybody's notes, but it's just something to note, so that also if someone says something, you're like, well, the reason why I didn't do X, Y, and Z is because of this, this, and this. I think it's always good to know why you have an idea, you know, why something was put in there. I was also told by one of my directors at Second City that you need to fight for your work, because no one else is going to fight as hard as you. And you really do. You need to know why something is staying in there, why you're including things. And if people don't, if you get overwhelming feedback of like, well, we don't really like this, but you do keep it in, you already know that. So you're gonna be okay. You're not, like, your feelings aren't gonna be hurt, right? If you know, people keep telling me that this chapter is a little disjointed and it doesn't really work, but I like it and I feel that it hones in on this idea I brought in the introduction. Okay, cool. You know, like, just know that you need to defend your work. Like, know that that's part of the process. And also, the other thing that sketch comedy like really taught me about audience feedback, though, is it's hit or miss sometimes. You know, sometimes somebody picks up your work, attends your show, and it's a great night for them and whatever. And other nights, like, they had a really crappy day, nothing is making them laugh, you know, the timing is just all wrong. And so that's just an element of it. And you just have to keep going. Like, you're not supposed to get your energy from the audience, from the reader, from whoever. They're supposed to get it from you. So you just have to keep bringing it and know that sometimes it works for them and sometimes it doesn't. But also, the more often that you put your work in front of other people, then the faster your process is honestly gonna go. One of the things that I do with clients, and when we work on book proposals, we work on a handful of magazine pitches, and then we use one of those pitches and send to